At 3 a.m., while the world outside slept, one young chef worked silently in a dimly lit kitchen. Unaware that his dedication was about to catch the eye of the company's CEO, change his life forever. Jay's had spent countless nights in kitchens much like this one, long before anyone noticed his talent. Growing up in a family that struggled to make ends meet, college had always been a dream he couldn't afford. Instead, he poured his energy into mastering his craft, learning through experience, mistakes, and relentless determination. The hours were long, the work grueling. But Jay's moved with a quiet confidence, each chop stir, and seasoning a testament to his dedication. Meanwhile, the CEO of the restaurant chain, Mr. Harrison, had always managed the company from a distance, relying on reports and middle managers to understand the business. That night, driven by curiosity and a desire to see the real work behind his empire, he chose to step into the kitchen himself, undercover, to witness the lives of the people who kept his business running. What he saw Jay's, working alone in the dead of night with unmatched focus and skill, was far beyond anything he had expected. It was a simple moment. Yet it held the power to change everything for the chef, for the company, and for the life lessons that would unfold from that quiet 3 a.m. encounter. Late one night, the CEO of a well-known restaurant chain decided to step into the world he usually only oversaw from behind a desk. He wanted to see, really see, what life was like for the people who worked in his kitchens. He had read reports, talked to managers, and occasionally walked through the restaurants during the day. But he knew that the real story, the real struggle, happened when the lights were dim, and the kitchens were quiet except for the hum of refrigerators and the occasional clatter of pots and pans. That night, he dressed in plain clothes, keeping his identity hidden, and walked quietly into one of the chain's busiest kitchens. The restaurant had closed to customers hours earlier, but the back kitchen was still alive with activity. Most employees had gone home, but a single figure stood near the stove. Moving with calm precision, it was around 3 in the morning, and the kitchen was nearly silent except for the hiss of the stove and the soft shuffle of someone moving around. The CEO watched from a corner, not wanting to disturb the rhythm of the work. He noticed the young chef carefully chopping vegetables, measuring spices, and arranging ingredients with a focus that seemed almost meditative. Each motion was deliberate, as if every slice, every sprinkle, mattered not just for the dish but for something bigger, something deeply personal. The CEO had seen many chefs over the years, but there was something different about this one. It wasn't just skill, it was commitment, dedication, a sense of responsibility that seemed far beyond his years. The chef didn't look tired, even though anyone else might have been yawning or rubbing their eyes by that hour. He moved with a rhythm that spoke of experience, even if it was experience earned outside of a classroom. The CEO noticed the care with which he handled the ingredients, as if he respected them not just for the meal they would become, but for the work and effort that went into producing them. It wasn't just cooking. It was almost like a quiet art form happening in the dead of night. The way the chef paused occasionally to taste, adjust, and reconsider each step showed a level of precision and self-discipline that impressed the CEO as he continued to watch. The CEO felt a growing sense of curiosity. Who was this young man? What had brought him to the kitchen at such an hour? Most employees left after long shifts, eager to rest or spend time with family. But here was someone working alone, quietly, as if the night was his most important partner. The CEO began to notice small details, the way the chef wiped down counters with care, organized ingredients in neat rows, and cleaned as he went instead of waiting until the end. Every action showed responsibility and pride, qualities that couldn't be taught in training sessions or management manuals. The smell of the food, the quiet clatter of pans, and the soft glow of the stove made the scene feel almost cinematic. The CEO could feel the dedication in the air, like it had a weight, presence that made the kitchen feel alive even when it was empty. He realized that this was the reality of running a restaurant, the reality that most people didn't see. Behind the polished dining room and happy customers were countless hours of unseen work, sweat, and sometimes sacrifice. This young chef embodied all of that, and he was doing it not for recognition or reward at that moment, but because he wanted to get it right. The CEO's thoughts began to wander. How many others like him were out there, quietly giving their best while the world slept? What kind of person chooses to work like this, night after night, with such discipline and care? He realized that no report, no manager's summary, could ever capture the dedication of someone who truly loved their craft and took their responsibilities seriously. This chef wasn't just preparing meals. He was protecting a standard, a tradition, perhaps even a dream. By watching quietly, the CEO began to feel a mix of admiration and humility. He understood that leadership wasn't just about policies and profits. It was about recognizing the human effort that made everything possible. He felt a growing desire to understand this young man, not just as an employee, but as a person with a story, a history, and dreams that had led him to stand in the kitchen alone at 3 a.m. Every precise cut, every careful stir, every measured sprinkle of spice told a silent story of discipline, patience, and quiet determination. For the first time, the CEO realized that there was more to see in his company than numbers and schedules. There were real lives, real struggles, and real talents that might never be noticed if he only looked from the outside. He wanted to know what had driven this chef to work so hard. What kind of life had taught him to respect every ingredient and every step of the process? The night had transformed the kitchen into more than a workspace. It had become a window into a person's character, work ethic, and hidden story. As the minutes passed, CEO stayed in the shadows, fascinated. He noticed the small habits that spoke volumes, the way the chef hummed softly while chopping, the way he paused to wipe his brow, the way he carefully tasted each component before moving on. It was clear that he took pride in his work, and that this pride came not from a desire for approval, but from a deep internal motivation. Watching him, the CEO began to understand that this level of dedication was rare and precious. By the time the chef finally looked up and stretched, the CEO felt a mix of respect, curiosity, and anticipation. He knew that this encounter was only the beginning, that there was a story behind this young man that needed to be heard. And in that quiet, almost magical moment, with the kitchen bathed in soft light and the world outside still asleep, the CEO realized that he was witnessing something extraordinary, the quiet dedication of someone who gave everything, even in the darkest hours, for the work he loved. The CEO stayed in the shadows, quietly watching the young chef work. After a few minutes, he decided to speak, careful not to startle him. "Hey," he said softly, "you're working late." The chef looked up, startled for a moment, then nodded politely. His eyes were tired, but there was a calm determination in his gaze. The CEO introduced himself casually, pretending to be someone curious about the work in the kitchen, not revealing that he was the owner. He wanted to hear the story behind the young man who worked so hard when almost everyone else was asleep. The chef hesitated, unsure at first, but slowly began to speak, his voice quiet but steady. The chef explained that he had started working in kitchens when he was still in high school. Money had always been tight at home, and he knew from a young age that he would have to contribute to his family. School was important, of course, but it often felt like a luxury he couldn't afford. While his friends dreamed about college and weekends spent hanging out, he spent long nights helping at small local restaurants, learning everything he could about cooking. Every shift he worked taught him something new, whether it was about flavors, timing, or how to work under pressure. He told the CEO about the hours he had spent practicing in tiny kitchens, learning from older chefs who had little patience but a lot of experience. He had no formal culinary training, no certificates or degrees, but he had learned by observing, by asking questions, and by repeating the same tasks over and over until he could do them perfectly. He said that sometimes the learning was painful. Mistakes were inevitable, and the consequences were real, especially when food went out late or was poorly prepared. But he also said that the mistakes taught him resilience, patience, and the ability to think quickly under pressure. As the chef spoke, the CEO noticed the pride in his voice, the pride that did not come from recognition but from knowing he had worked hard and earned his skills. He spoke of long nights when he was exhausted, yet he stayed because he loved the craft. He described the satisfaction of creating a dish from scratch, of seeing the ingredients transform under his hands, and of knowing that someone would enjoy the meal he had prepared. The CEO could see that cooking was more than a job for this young man. It was a passion, a form of expression, and a way to prove to himself that he could succeed despite the odds stacked against him. The chef went on to explain why he had never gone to college. He had dreamed of it, like any young person, imagining the possibilities and the freedom it could offer. But life had other plans. His family depended on him, and there was no way to afford tuition while still meeting basic needs at home. There were also other responsibilities, small and large, that he could not ignore. Helping younger siblings with homework, working shifts to cover household expenses, and sometimes taking care of ill family members. College seemed like a distant dream, something he would think about when life was easier, which it never really became. He also shared that many people didn't understand his choices. Friends would go off to universities, talk about their professors, and the CEO could see how much he longed for that experience, but had to put it aside. There was a quiet frustration in his words, a sense of missing out. But it was paired with an acceptance that life had given him other lessons. Instead of textbooks and lectures, he had learned about responsibility, time management, and hard work. Instead of internships and student clubs, he had learned how to handle stress, deal with demanding customers, and manage multiple tasks at once. The CEO began to understand that this young man had a depth of experience that many college graduates might never achieve. He had faced challenges, sacrifices, and responsibilities that forced him to grow up quickly. And yet, despite all of this, he was not bitter or resentful. He was committed to doing his best every day, quietly working late nights to improve, refine, and perfect his skills. He had chosen to turn obstacles into opportunities, using each challenge as motivation rather than letting it hold him back. The chef also spoke about his dreams for the future. Even though he had never attended college, he wanted to keep learning. He wanted to create dishes that would make people happy, innovate in the kitchen, and perhaps one day lead a team himself. But for now, he focused on the present, on the tasks at hand, and on being the best he could be in the moment. His dedication and clarity of purpose impressed the CEO deeply. It was rare to see someone so young with such insight, humility, and determination. During their conversation, CEO noticed how the chef handled challenges with grace. He spoke about a day when a large catering order went wrong and how he stayed calm. He improvised and made sure every dish reached the customer on time. He didn't boast. He simply explained it as if it were a normal part of life. The CEO realized that the chef had developed leadership qualities without even knowing it. He had learned how to manage stress, prioritize tasks, and remain steady under pressure. Skills that were invaluable in any career, college degree or not. By the end of their conversation, the CEO felt a mix of admiration and inspiration. He had come expecting to see someone hardworking, but he had found a story of perseverance, sacrifice, and passion. He realized that this young chef was not limited by his circumstances. He had used them to grow stronger, more capable, and more determined. The CEO understood that sometimes the most valuable lessons in life are not taught in classrooms, but are learned through experience, struggle, and the willingness to keep going when no one is watching. The young chef's story stayed with the CEO long after the night ended. He had come to the kitchen to observe, but he left with a new perspective, a deep respect for the people who quietly dedicate themselves to their craft, and an understanding that talent and hard work often shine brightest in the most unexpected places. He realized that opportunity, recognition, and success sometimes depended not on formal education, but on dedication, resilience, and a willingness to keep striving even when the world sleeps. The young chef leaned against the counter for a moment, taking a deep breath, and began to share more about his life. He spoke quietly, almost as if he were talking to himself, but the CEO listened intently. The chef explained that he had grown up in a neighborhood where life was often difficult. Money was always tight, and his parents worked multiple jobs just to keep the family afloat. From a young age, he learned that responsibilities didn't wait. If something needed to be done, it had to be done by him or someone in the family. And there was little time for dreaming or delaying action. School was important, he said, but it wasn't enough to make ends meet. While other kids his age were thinking about weekend outings or the latest games, he was thinking about bills, groceries, and ways to help at home. He had 2 younger siblings, and often he found himself tutoring them, helping with homework and making sure they had what they needed. Sometimes he would skip school entirely or leave early, just to make sure someone in the family had what they needed or that chores were done. Education was a dream, yes? But survival came first. He told the CEO about the first time he stepped into a professional kitchen. He was barely 16, nervous, and unsure if he could handle the fast pace, the heat, and the endless demands. But he remembered the satisfaction he felt when he managed to plate his first dish correctly, when the chef in charge nodded and said it was done well. That moment ignited something inside him, a sense of purpose, a feeling that he could make a difference through hard work and dedication. It wasn't just about making money. It was about mastering something, proving to himself that he could be excellent even without advantages or formal training. The chef spoke about the long nights. He spent working multiple jobs while his friends went to college or partied on weekends. There were nights when he would finish a shift at midnight, only to wake up at dawn to take another. He rarely complained, but the exhaustion was always there, creeping into his bones. Still, he persisted. Every late night, every extra hour in the kitchen, every dish he perfected, taught him lessons that no classroom ever could. Patience, endurance, adaptabilities were the subjects he studied, and his kitchen was his classroom. He explained to the CEO how the community he grew up in shaped him. There were people who struggled to find work, families who faced challenges that seemed insurmountable, and neighbors who relied on one another to survive. In such an environment, he learned empathy, responsibility, and the importance of helping others. He said that seeing his parents work tirelessly without recognition made him understand that effort and sacrifice were often invisible, yet essential. That understanding stayed with him and guided his own work ethic. The chef went on to share some of the specific challenges he faced in the kitchen. He had learned quickly that mistakes could be costly not just in terms of food wasted, but in reputation, customer satisfaction, and even in his own confidence. At first, he had struggled, burning dishes, misjudging times, and feeling the frustration of failure. But he refused to give up. Each failure became a lesson, each correction a step toward mastery. Over time, he began to notice patterns, understand flavors, anticipate problems, and move with an efficiency that surprised even his mentors. The CEO could see the pride in the chef's voice, but also a humility that was remarkable. Despite all of his accomplishments, he did not see himself as extraordinary. He simply worked hard, did his best, and tried to improve every day. The chef said that many people judged success by formal education or titles. But he had learned that real knowledge and skill came from experience, observation, and consistent effort. He had learned to value learning in any form, whether it came from a chef yelling at him for a mistake, an old cookbook, or simply the quiet observation of how a perfect dish came together. He also spoke about the sacrifices he had made. While his friends attended college parties, he worked double shifts. While others traveled or pursued hobbies, he spent weekends in the kitchen, experimenting, testing recipes, and learning from mistakes. He did not resent these sacrifices. In fact, he felt they had made him stronger and more capable. The discipline he developed allowed him to manage pressure, handle multiple responsibilities, and remain calm even when everything seemed chaotic, a skill that would serve him for life. Both in and outside the kitchen, the chef admitted that there were moments of doubt, moments when he wondered if he would ever have the opportunities others had, if the lack of a degree would hold him back, if life would always be this hard. But each time doubt crept in, he reminded himself of the small victories, a dish that came out perfectly, a customer's compliment, a mentor's nod of approval. These moments reinforced his belief that effort and persistence mattered more than titles or formal recognition. He also explained that his goal was not just to survive, but to excel. Every dish he prepared, every hour he spent in the kitchen, was a step toward something bigger. He wanted to learn, to grow, and one day to lead a team of his own. He dreamed of creating meals that people remembered, of being someone others could look up to, not because of a degree, but because of skill, passion, and integrity. His ambitions were quiet, but powerful, shaped by necessity and fueled by determination. By the end of their conversation, the CEO could see clearly why this young chef never went to college. It was not because he lacked intelligence or curiosity, but because life had given him responsibilities too important to ignore. He had prioritized family, survival, and mastery of his craft over formal education. And in doing so, he had gained something many people with degrees could not claim: real-world experience, resilience, and a level of dedication that was rare. The CEO began to understand the depth of the chef's story. He realized that the hours spent in the kitchen, the sacrifices made, the skills developed were a testament to his character. They were the story of a young man who faced obstacles head-on, who turned challenges into lessons, and who refused to let circumstances define his potential. The chef's life was not easy, but it had given him strength, insight, and an unwavering work ethic that could not be taught in any classroom. Watching him work, listening to him speak, the CEO felt a mixture of admiration and respect. He realized that talent and passion often go unnoticed because they do not always follow conventional paths. Here was someone who had created his own path, carved out opportunities through effort and determination, and proven that success could be achieved in many ways. The chef's story was a lesson in perseverance, dedication, and the power of turning life's difficulties into strengths. That night, the CEO left the kitchen with a new perspective. He had entered to observe work, but he was leaving with a deep understanding of the sacrifices, struggles, and resilience that shaped the people behind the scenes. He understood that formal education was not the only path to success, and that some of the most remarkable talent he had ever encountered came from life experience, hardship, and a refusal to quit. The young chef's story would stay with him forever, a reminder that dedication, perseverance, and skill could shine brightest when no one else was watching. The CEO continued to watch the young chef work, still hidden in the shadows. But now his mind was filled with admiration and curiosity. He had listened to the chef's story, learned about his struggles, sacrifices, and determination, and now he wanted to see the talent in action. As the chef moved around the kitchen, chopping, stirring, and plating with precision, the CEO realized that what he was seeing went beyond hard work. It was pure skill, creativity, and instinct. Every movement, every decision seemed natural, yet flawless. It was clear that this young man had developed abilities that could only come from years of experience, dedication, and a deep love for the craft. The CEO observed how the chef approached each dish not simply as a task to complete, but as a challenge to excel. He experimented subtly, adjusting flavors, testing textures, and tasting repeatedly to ensure everything was perfect. He worked with an instinctive understanding of timing, knowing exactly when to add each ingredient, how long to cook, and how to balance flavors. There was a rhythm to his work, a flow that spoke of someone who had spent countless hours learning by doing. It was this rhythm, combined with creativity and precision, that impressed the CEO more than anything else. As he watched, the CEO thought about the formal training programs he had offered to other employees in the past. He realized that while those programs provided valuable knowledge, they could never replace the kind of hands-on experience this chef had gained. He had learned through trial and error, through long nights alone in the kitchen, through challenges that tested not just his skill but his patience, resilience, and problem-solving abilities. That kind of learning, the CEO realized, was rare, powerful, and deeply personal. The chef's story and his skill prompted the CEO to consider the potential that often goes unnoticed. Here was someone without a degree, without formal recognition, yet capable of producing work that rivaled or exceeded that of trained professionals. The CEO realized that talent and dedication could exist outside conventional paths, that sometimes life's challenges created stronger, more capable individuals than traditional education alone. He began to see that this young man was not limited by his circumstances. Rather, he had been shaped and strengthened by them. The CEO also noticed the chef's ability to handle pressure gracefully. Even at 3 a.m., when most would be exhausted, the chef remained focused, calm, and deliberate. He dealt with problems as they arose: burned pans, missing ingredients, timing issues with a level-headedness that was rare. He did not panic, nor did he complain. He simply assessed the situation, adapted, and moved forward. This ability to stay composed under stress impressed the CEO deeply. Leadership, he realized, was not just about giving orders or managing others. It was about how one handled challenges, how one stayed calm and resourceful when faced with difficulties. The CEO started imagining what could happen if the chef were given more opportunities. If he had access to resources, mentorship, and recognition, how far could his talent take him? It was clear that his dedication, creativity, and resilience had already brought him far, but with proper support, he could achieve even more. The CEO began thinking not just about the chef's skill, but about his potential to inspire others, to lead, and to innovate within the company. He realized that discovering and nurturing hidden talent like this could transform not just the individual, but the organization as a whole. As the night progressed, the chef continued to work, and the CEO watched quietly, learning more with every movement. He noticed how the chef motivated himself internally, without anyone watching or praising him. He worked for the love of the craft, for personal pride, and for the satisfaction of creating something exceptional. The CEO understood that this intrinsic motivation was a rare quality, one that could not be taught or forced. It had to come from within. It was the kind of dedication that separated good employees from truly remarkable ones. The CEO also reflected on how much the chef's life experiences had contributed to his character. Growing up in a challenging environment, facing financial and family responsibilities, and sacrificing personal comfort to work hard, had given him qualities that formal training could never provide. He had developed empathy, discipline, patience, and problem-solving skills. He had learned to persevere through adversity, to remain focused when circumstances were difficult, and to take pride in the smallest successes. These qualities were as valuable as technical skill, if not more so. Finally, the CEO decided to step out of the shadows. He wanted to recognize the chef for his talent and dedication, and he wanted to offer him an opportunity. He approached the young man and revealed his identity, explaining that he was the CEO of the restaurant chain. The chef was stunned, unable to believe that the person he had been speaking to all night was the owner himself. The CEO shared how impressed he was not just with the chef's skill, but with his resilience, work ethic, and passion. He emphasized that he saw potential in him, his potential that could be developed further with the right support and guidance. The chef listened, a mixture of disbelief and gratitude on his face. He had worked quietly, without expectation of recognition, yet here was someone acknowledging his efforts, his sacrifices, and his talent. The CEO offered mentorship, a promotion, and opportunities to take on leadership roles within the company. He wanted to help the chef grow, to ensure that his hard work and dedication could lead to real advancement, and to show that talent and perseverance could be rewarded even when the traditional path of college had not been possible. As they spoke, the CEO realized that this encounter was not just about talent or opportunity, it was about human potential. The young chef's journey demonstrated that circumstances do not define capability. Effort, resilience, and passion do. By recognizing and supporting this hidden talent, the CEO could make a meaningful difference in someone's life, and in doing so, set an example for the rest of the company. It was a moment of revelation. Leadership was about seeing the value in people, understanding their stories, and helping them reach their full potential. By the time their conversation ended, the CEO had made a decision. He would ensure that the chef's dedication and talent were recognized, nurtured, and rewarded. He would help him develop the skills he already possessed and create opportunities for growth, leadership, and innovation. The CEO felt inspired, knowing that this young man had the ability to accomplish great things, not despite his challenges, but because of them. That night, as the chef returned to his work, the CEO watched him with a sense of pride and hope. He realized that there were countless employees like him, quietly giving their best, whose talents and dedication often went unnoticed. and he understood that the true role of leadership was to recognize these people, provide guidance, and open doors that might otherwise remain closed. In that quiet kitchen at 3 a.m., the CEO saw the future, a young chef with skill, determination, and heart, ready to rise, and a company that could grow stronger by nurturing talent in unexpected places. After the CEO revealed his identity and shared how impressed he was with the young chef, the kitchen felt different, almost charged with a new energy. The chef, who had been quietly working through the night for years without expectation, now faced recognition he had never imagined. He listened intently, a mix of disbelief, pride, and cautious hope on his face. The CEO didn't just compliment his skills. He spoke about potential, opportunity, and the ways the chef could grow within the company. It was clear that this conversation would mark a turning point in the chef's life. The CEO explained that he wanted to give the chef more than just recognition. He wanted to provide mentorship and opportunities to lead projects, innovate in the kitchen, and eventually take on leadership roles within the company. The chef's eyes widened as he realized that this was more than a promotion or a raise. It was a chance to shape his own future, to gain the experiences that formal education had not provided, and to make a real impact on the company he loved. He felt a deep sense of gratitude and determination, knowing that this opportunity was the result of years of unseen effort, late nights, and sacrifices. As the weeks went by, the CEO followed through on his promise. He began personally mentoring the chef, sharing insights about leadership, business strategy, and managing teams. The chef, in turn, absorbed everything with enthusiasm and humility. He applied his natural skills to these new lessons, combining his hands-on experience with guidance from someone who understood the broader vision of the company. The combination of raw talent and mentorship accelerated his growth, allowing him to take on responsibilities he had never imagined possible. Just months before, one of the first opportunities came in the form of leading a small team in the kitchen. The chef had always worked independently, but now he was asked to guide others, train new employees, and ensure quality under his supervision. At first, it was challenging. Leadership required more than skill in cooking. It required patience, communication, and the ability to motivate and inspire others. But the chef embraced the challenge, drawing from his life experiences. He understood responsibility, and he knew what it meant to work under pressure while maintaining quality. His team responded to his calm confidence, respect for their work, and attention to detail. Under his guidance, efficiency improved, mistakes decreased, and morale increased. The chef's creativity also flourished under the new guidance. He began experimenting with new dishes, creating menus that reflected his vision and innovation. Where he had once worked within strict instructions, he now had the freedom to express himself fully. His dishes became more than just food. They told a story, carried emotion, and showed a depth of understanding of flavors and techniques that was extraordinary. Customers noticed, offering praise, and managers took note of the quality and consistency he brought to the kitchen. The CEO was right. Opportunity unlocked potential that had been waiting quietly, patiently. Through long hours and sacrifice, as recognition for his skill and leadership grew, the chef began to inspire others. Colleagues who had once struggled to keep up looked to him as a role model. They admired not only his cooking ability, but also his dedication, discipline, and resilience. His story spread through the company, a reminder that talent and hard work often exist in places that go unnoticed. The CEO encouraged him to share his experiences with newer employees, helping them understand the value of perseverance and dedication. The chef became a symbol of what was possible when passion met opportunity, and he embraced this role wholeheartedly. Despite the new responsibilities and attention, the chef never lost his humility. He remembered the long nights when he worked alone, the sacrifices his family had made, and the struggles that shaped him. He worked tirelessly, not for recognition or praise, but because he genuinely loved his craft and wanted to do his best. This attitude only made him more respected and admired, as people saw that his leadership was rooted in genuine commitment, not ego or ambition. He became a leader not by title alone, but by example, showing that integrity and dedication were as important as skill. The chef also began to think about the future in ways he had never allowed himself before. With the CEO's support and mentorship, he started considering larger projects, such as developing training programs for new chefs, introducing innovative dishes to the menu, and even helping with strategic decisions in the company. He realized that the skills he had honed in the kitchen, problem-solving, time management, creativity, and resilience, could be applied on a bigger scale. For the first time, the future felt like something he could shape, not just something he reacted to. At home, his life began to change as well. The chef was able to provide more for his family, easing some of the burdens he had carried alone for years. He could spend more time with his siblings, support his parents, and even allow himself small moments of rest and reflection. The sense of security and recognition that came with his new role allowed him to balance his professional growth with personal well-being, something he had rarely experienced before. It was a reminder that opportunity could transform not only a career, but an entire life. Over time, the CEO watched the chef grow into a confident, skilled leader. The young man who had once worked silently at 3 a.m., unnoticed and unrecognized, was now shaping the future of the company's kitchens. He had turned hardship into strength, experience into leadership, and dedication into inspiration. The CEO felt proud, knowing that by taking the time to recognize and support this hidden talent, he had helped unlock potential that would benefit not only the chef, but the entire organization. The story of the chef became well known within the company, a real-life example of perseverance, dedication, and the power of opportunity. Employees spoke about him with admiration, inspired by how he had overcome challenges, honed his skills through hard work, and seized the chance to grow when it was offered. The chef remained humble, often reminding his team that every challenge they faced was an opportunity to learn. Just as he had learned through years of sacrifice and determination through all this, the chef never forgot the lessons he had learned before recognition came. The long nights, the sacrifices, the struggles, they remained a part of him, shaping his approach to work and leadership. He understood that success was not just about talent, but about persistence, integrity, and the willingness to continue even when no one is watching. He shared these lessons openly, mentoring younger employees, helping them navigate challenges, and encouraging them to believe in their own potential. Regardless of their background or circumstances, by the end of the year, the chef had not only transformed his own life, but also influenced the lives of countless others. He had proven that dedication, talent, and resilience could overcome obstacles, that recognition could come at the right moment, and that leadership was about helping others grow as well as oneself. The CEO knew that this young man had become an integral part of the company, someone whose story would inspire for years to come. In the quiet moments, when the kitchen was still and the lights were low, the chef sometimes reflected on how far he had come, from the long nights working alone to the recognition and opportunities he now enjoyed. He understood that every challenge, every sacrifice, and every effort had led him to this point. He was grateful not just for the CEO's mentorship, but for the life experiences that had made him resilient, skilled, and determined. What had begun as a solitary struggle at 3 a.m. had become a story of transformation, proving that dedication and opportunity together could change a life. The chef's journey became a powerful example no matter the circumstances. Talent and hard work can shine through, and the right recognition at the right time can open doors that seemed forever closed. The CEO continued to support him, and the chef continued to grow, inspiring others and leaving a lasting impact on the company. His story was a reminder that greatness often begins quietly in the shadows, with perseverance, courage, and an unwavering belief in one's own potential.